very much. Alan will be joining me a little bit later, so we won't be standing together here with me just talking and him just standing. So which would be a little bit strange. But I do want to extend a very warm welcome to everybody. I know that you've all travelled a long way, so we do very much appreciate it. We're all busy, and I know that there's other things you could be doing. So spending time with us is very much appreciated. Thank you. What I would like to just talk to you about today is the Citrix vision. What we believe in, what we are doing about our beliefs, and how we believe that impacts you. For Citrix, we've been focused on our vision, our mission, if you like, for over 25 years. We've used different words to describe what we're focused on, what we're trying to do. But really at the very core of what we're about, what we're doing, hasn't really changed. And that's hasn't really changed because what we're trying to do is actually quite challenging. The way that we work and the way that we live is constantly changing. And as it changes, the challenge that we face in letting people experience work and life their own way continues to evolve. And when you look at the way that work and life, that balance has changed, it is changing very significantly. This over here is really the way that we used to, a lot of us, maybe a lot of us still do, but a lot of people used to do this. It's just the way we used to go to work. Work was a place that we went to. It wasn't something that we did as much as it was a place that we went to. We did that and then we went home. And now the way that it is much more like this, where work and life are just this seamless intermixing over time. You get up in the morning, the first thing you do, probably one of the first things you do is look at your email on your smartphones. If you're traveling during the day, I'm sure when you were traveling here today, as soon as the plane touches down, turn the phone on, go to your email, start working again, and then you have a break, do some personal things, call home, speak to the family, then you go back to work. It's this interchange. This has been a very, very significant change. It's happened, both gradually, but it's also been accelerating in the last several years. And one of the reasons that it's been accelerating is because of the range of devices that we have available to us. I remember when the iPad came out in 2011, I was actually in California, and it was a huge event, and we didn't really know what it meant, but it soon, very quickly became obvious that this was a big, big shift in the way that we were going to do things and the way that, the devices that we were going to use. Over the next several years, a huge change in the range of devices. We've just seen the latest iPhones come out, and we've also seen the launch of Android One in India just this week, both of which are operating at very different levels in the market, but they're addressing a huge population. The Android One is aimed at the next billion, and probably the iPhone and the iPhone 6 Plus are aimed at the richest 1 billion. So very different market segments, but you can see the huge change that's going on there. It's not only the devices, though, which have billions of, but it's also the change in the way that we do applications. So when the iPhone, iPod, iPad came out, and we had the Apple App Store, then you were getting applications, hundreds and hundreds, thousands and millions of applications. Never before have we seen applications like that. We're used to dealing with applications like Microsoft Office Suite, SAP, these big monolithic things. No one ever put them on an app store and downloaded them over 3G. This was just a very significant change. And people who never touched an application in their life didn't even know what an application was. All of a sudden, they had 200 apps on their phone. So it's been the device and it's been the application change that's really accelerated this, and the acceleration, is undeniable. IDC here estimates that there's going to be 1.3 billion people in a kind of working in a mobile workspace by 2015. When you consider that there's about 7 billion people on the planet, for the change that we've undergone over the last 4 or 5 years to get to this kind of number of people in that space of time is it is transformational, just to use a word that we're using here. So, huge change, huge adoption of this kind of method of working. At Citrix, we have about 300,000 customers. We're aiming for 1.3 billion, but at the moment we've got 300,000. And, these are some of the things that we see when we talk to our customers. They're, lots of devices, a lot more than just a single device that they get from their company. That they are working more and more in an international or in a mobile way, closer to customers, or just being out of the office a lot more. They've got a lot of applications, and we see a lot of proliferation of unsecured data, things like Dropbox, Box.net, etc. Those kind of applications, those kind of services have just really had a huge impact. A lot of people adopting that kind of technology, and the kinds of projects that we talk to customers about when we talk to them. Here's a sample of some of the things that we're talking to customers about. Projects that they're working on, app stores. It could be some mobility project for a workforce, some part of their workforce that needs to be much more mobile. It could be business continuity. It could be, BYOD projects. But what all of these projects have at the very heart, a mobility requirement. And so we feel that, from the conversations that we have, from what we hear from other people, what we see going on in devices and in applications, we can be very confident in saying that we believe that everything is mobile. Now, everything for us, that's recognition that the way that people are doing things is changing, the way that we have to kind of work with our customers, etc., is also changing. But it's also a recognition that many of us, ourselves, have to change the assumptions, the way that we approach projects that we're working on. So, this is, I think, if we go back a few years, these were some of the assumptions that we thought were valid. People would be in the office, they would be connected on a company device, they would have, they'd be wired, be connected on a UTP cable. They'd be operating on a set of applications that were probably monolithic applications that IT controlled. Now, there was always a group of people who were the exceptions. They're the people that cause the most pain. And they were mobile. They were using personal devices. They were connected on wireless, and they were using... These kinds of people existed, but they were the exception. Now, of course, all of the things that were exceptions have become the assumptions. People are mobile. They are using personal devices, whether we want them to or not. They're using monolithic apps that they probably get from the App Store or from Google Play Store or something like that. And so the way that we have to approach the projects that we're working on and the technology and the things that we're doing has to fundamentally change as well. So it's something that many of our customers are facing and that we're talking to them about. Now, there's no reason for that to happen. There's no reason for us to go and change the way that we're doing things and for us to make these different assumptions if there's not some return, not some reason to do it. And in our case, we are very, very focused on making those changes, making that shift to mobile work for all of us so that you can work better and that you can live better. When you see the Citrix logo, you'll see our line is, work better and live better. And what we mean by that is that the technology should work for us. It should result in us being able to do the things that we want to do in our work and in our lives better. That's our goal. The way that we want to do that is to provide, technology and communication systems that really do provide a better way for people to do things. And the way that we're focused on that is in this thing that we call a mobile workspace. We see that the mobile workspace really is going to be the way that people will work in the future. And I want to spend a little bit of time now just talking about what we think that is and what it means so that you can kind of get a sense of where we're going. And then Alan will take you through in more detail how this actually, we believe, plays out in a business sense, how it plays out actually in real life, the things that you're really doing. A mobile workspace, we believe, is made up of three key components, three key kind of results that you get from it. One, the first one, and a very important one, is workflow transformation. Workflow transformation is the how of work. How do you get stuff done? What's the processes that you go through? What are the things that you use to get work done? And there's no doubt that mobile workspace and moving workforce to more of a mobile way, you have to recognize that there's a transformation of the workflow. It simply isn't just a case of doing what you're already doing, but having it in a mobile way. You've got to re-engineer the way that you think about work. The second piece is a workplace reinvention. Now, many, many people are looking at the impact of people being more mobile and saying, how does this impact the workplace, the office environment? And certainly a piece of this is rearranging, reorganizing, re-looking carefully at how you organize an office environment, but it's also could be just changing where you work. Do you now do your work closer to your customer? Do you now do it in a completely different location? Do you now do it from home rather than an office? Do you do it from a remote city? This is the where of work, and being mobile just makes it much more possible to do it wherever you want to. And then finally, third piece is workforce engagement. And what we mean by this is actually quite significant. The way that we used to think about workforce engagement is we would go and we would put an ad in, or we'd go and talk to a headhunter, or we would go and interview people and have them want to join the company, and we'd take them on board, and that would be kind of it. Workforce engagement is more about getting the people that join your company to join not just your company, but to join the mission that your company is on. So how do you get people who work with you and work for you to really become productive, to really join in your mission, in your passion for what is going on in your company? How do you get them to engage in a really meaningful way with what you're doing? And we believe that the whole idea of mobile workspaces is a critical component of getting people who join your company to join your mission as well. That it has to be simple to work for you. It has to be enjoyable to work for you. It can't be, too hard. It can't be, ridiculously difficult to get things done, because if it is, then they just don't want to do it. We think that this is more and more important it's important now. It'll be more important in 10 years, and it'll be even more important in 15 or 20 years' time, because today, technology has never been easier. Technology has never been more accessible. You only have to think of your kids and how easy they find it to use the tools and the phones and the things that they've got, the iPads that they've got. The way they approach technology is just different. They just expect it to be there. They just expect it to be easy. And it's that kind of experience that we think we will need to provide for the next generation of people if you really, truly want them to join in the mission that you have. So when we look at that and we say, well, how do you make that a reality? How do you take the technology and make that mobile work style a reality? And we think of it in this way here. So a workspace, of course, has to be completely mobile, has to be virtual, because you want to be able to do it on anything, on any device. And of course, it has to be secure. And at Citrix, we've been working in this field for 20 years, and security has been at the very heart of what we've done for a long, long time. And so, for us, it's just a given that this is a highly secure environment. You're not going to leave, things on devices or data on devices. You're going to have a highly secure system that nobody can tap into, and that's absolutely assumed here, that you have to. This whole environment has to be so secure. More and more, we're concerned about the security of what we're doing, and so mobile, virtual, and secure. And then, what are the elements that make it up? So let me go through each of these quickly to explain what we're thinking here. Firstly, apps. Apps, by this I mean those microcentric applications. iOS, Android, Windows Phone are the predominant ones today, the ones that are really taking share and really where people are investing. Those applications, there are millions and millions of them. People are using them for different things. It's those kind of applications which we believe drive a lot of value in the mobile workspace. And those applications in their different forms, we'll talk a little bit more about that, the different ways we look at them, they are critical in this space. Data. We think data is equally critical. If you have applications, you need data. The applications and the data obviously go hand in hand. You need a way of securing that data. You need a way of taking that data with you, of easily transferring it, easily sharing it with people that you want to share it with. So a secure way of handling secure data is equally important. You need to be able to collaborate. If you're mobile, if you're out, if you're not in the same office as everybody else, you need a way of easily collaborating. And we see lots of tools around that these days. There's WebEx, there's Link. So I was talking something the other day using Skype. Citrix, we have a product called GoToMeeting. More and more tools coming that let you do virtual meetings, that let you easily communicate to other people. So collaboration here is a critical piece. We assume that we're going to be shifting between work and personal. We don't see a world where people have two devices. We see a world where they have a single device, and they're shifting on that single device. 1 second, they're sending messages to their wife about the dinner. The next minute, they're doing secure email on a project that they're working on. And it's all happening on the same device. So there has to be this seamless integration of your personal communication, your personal work, and your work styles kind of moving together very easily. And then finally here, desktops. And when I say desktops, here I mean Windows applications and Windows desktops. Windows apps and desktops, client-server technology, have been very much a huge part of our lives for the last 20 years. It isn't going away quickly. Certainly there's lots of new SaaS apps out there, and we see the SaaS apps coming in along with these. But this is, for the majority of us, this is going to continue. We're going to continue to use and leverage Windows applications and desktops. So we need a way of bringing them with us. And we need a way of doing that, all of that, on any device and in any location. And so the goal that we have here is to enable all this so that you can have this mobile work style, this state-of-the-art environment to do things on absolutely any device. Now, our goal at Citrix is to have a comprehensive end-to-end solution. So to cover all of the pieces that I talked about and to provide our customers with the total mobile workspace solution covering applications, Windows desktops, collaboration, data, make it all secure, make it all personal. And the way that we are doing that is, how we experience that is going to be a very, very important part of the way that you do it, because I go back to our workforce engagement. Now, it's hard for me to describe the experience that we're after. So what I want to do now is just show you a short video of a customer of ours. And I've chosen this customer deliberately. This customer is called Rhaetian Railway. I bet most of you have never heard of Rhaetian Railway, but I've chosen them specifically because you haven't heard of them. So this mobile work style, this change to this kind of way of doing things, is happening to everybody. It's happening to all of us. It's not happening to very large companies, and small companies are kind of not, kind of ignoring it. It's actually for smaller and medium companies. They're the ones who are possibly getting the greatest advantage of shifting to this kind of way of thinking and way of working. And so I chose this company because it's small, because it's not your normal kind of company. It's not an insurance company. It's not an IT company. It's a railway. It's very kind of traditional kind of company. And so for those reasons, I chose it. It's only a couple of minutes. Just look at that. I want to, as we go through that at the end of it, I want to kind of point out a few things. So if we could run the video, please.
The Alps presents us with a very unique workplace. In times of hard weather, when roads are closed, Rhaetian Railway is sometimes the only lifeline we have in this area. In a large region, with only 1,400 employees, we would prefer that everyone is out in the field, not tied to a desk. For this to happen, we needed more than mobile devices. We needed a real mobility strategy. Citrix has changed practically every job at Rhaetian Railway. With Zen Mobile and Zen Desktop, everyone is enabled on any device, online and offline. Their applications and data are securely with them at all times. This means now, if a situation arises, emergency teams can react instantly from anywhere. Our response time can be in seconds, not hours. By nature, our conductors are responsible for the safety of the train. This means they had to carry hundreds of pages of safety and technical manuals at all times. Now this critical data is at their fingertips, even in highly remote locations. Citrix has more than improved our productivity. It has unleashed innovation. When people have a completely mobile workspace, they can work on their terms, not on technology's terms. Essentially, Citrix has freed us to focus on what matters most, taking people safely wherever they wish to go.
So, to be honest, the other reason I chose this customer is because they work in an environment like this. And for many of us in Asia, it's hard to believe that you work up in the Alps like this. So it's a beautiful setting. And the video is interesting. During the video, there's a lot of Citrix words and a lot of Citrix product names. And I just ask you to kind of put that to one side for a minute and think more about what they said. And what they were saying is that people now were working much closer to their customer. So they reinvented the workplace. And they were also saying that they were able to focus on what mattered most, which was their customers. And so the way that they worked had changed, how they worked had changed. And so this is, I think, is a great example of the workflow transformation, reinventing where you worked, and also getting greater engagement from the people who worked in the railway with the mission of the railways, which is to take people safely from one place to another. And that is really the focus of our work in mobile work styles, is how can we help our customers go through that kind of transformation and realize the benefits of what we think of as a mobile work style. Now, many of you are our customers, and we certainly appreciate that very much. And we've been around for a long time, over 20 years now. We have a lot of customers. And so when we talk about this, sometimes it helps to kind of provide some time frame here as to what's happened to us and why are we here and how did we get here. And for those of you who know us, you'll remember us a long time ago doing remote access, basically secure remote access. That was our thing. We started small. We kept, many of our customers, some of you here, used us for problem applications, a specific use case, and then we just kept on adding use cases, and gradually we built a very large number of use cases, a very large number of customers, and secure remote access was a great place to be. We developed some great technology over the wire. We got to understand Windows apps and desktops like nobody else, and we, very successful. And then we went through a transition into virtual computing. This is really where we started doing a lot. We separated physical, logical connections here, and we, XenApp and XenDesktop was really where our use case exploded. Many of our customers deployed the technology much more broadly. We really changed the way that people think about what we were doing. And then here, again, we're going through this transition right now from the virtual computing world to the mobile workspace world, where we're aiming to transform workflows, transform the workplace, change the way that people work so that they can experience work and life their way. Now, that transition is really the result of everything that we've been doing from remote access and virtual computing to here. Without all of this and this, it's impossible to do this. So as people's, the way they work and the way they live have changed, we've invested in technology, developed technology to create this, world where people can do this. So the mobile workspace is really the end result of everything that we've been working on for 20 years, and really the next phase of what we are focusing on. The core technology that we're using, or what we call our technologies that are addressing this space, is Zen Mobile. It's designed to be a comprehensive end-to-end enterprise mobility solution for applications, for data, for the devices, for everything that's involved. One of the big things about this technology is that whereas before, through our remote access phase and our virtual computing phase, we really focused on Windows applications and desktops. That is really what we did. In Zen Mobile, for the first time, we're focusing on iOS, on Android, on Windows Phone. We're developing applications in iOS, developing applications in Android. We're embracing that iOS and Android world and saying that we're going to be as strong in that as we are in our Windows environments. We're going to do what's necessary in iOS and Android to realize our vision for our mobile work style. Now, Zen Mobile is made up of a number of different elements. And I want to kind of work through these a little bit just to give you a sense of the things that we're working on. One of the things here is device management. Device management is critical. It's an essential element of what we do in a mobile work style. But in some ways, it's just assumed. In some ways, we've moved rapidly through that MDM phase, if you like, where we now just assume that you have some sort of device management capability. We also are working in data management and in applications, and we think that the real benefit, the real gain that you'll get out of mobile work styles will come from the data and application layers. So yes, you need device management, but it's not where you're going to get all of the great things out of a mobile work style. So here in data management, this needs to be secure. You need to be able to a way to take the data that you want to take with you wherever you're going. And then, and probably most importantly, are the application pieces. And here we think of this in 4 different boxes. This box here at the top left is our Citrix productivity applications, and I'll talk a little bit about them briefly. They're the things that just like everybody uses mail, everybody uses notes, everybody uses browsers. It's these kinds of applications that everybody uses to get basic things done, and these are there, secure. You want to be able to use them, and you want them on any device, any iOS device, any Android device, Windows Phone device. You want them to be there. You want it to be seamlessly moving from device to device. You want it to be easy. You want it to be a great experience. These are the things that are up there. You also want your Windows applications. You want to be able to take your PowerPoint, your Word, Excel files. You want to take the things that we all use every day. You want to be able to take them into this mobile work style as well. There's also a whole range of Windows Phone, iOS, and Android applications that you want to use. They don't come from us. They don't come from you. Adobe, they could come from Adobe. They could come from Evernote. But you want to be able to take those and embed it into your mobile workspace, this secure mobile virtual world, and have it accessible to you in that world. And then finally, and perhaps over time most importantly, are the applications that you will develop for your people. So these are your iOS, your Android applications that you will develop and you want to deliver out to your people. Now this looks a little bit like it's under construction, and it is, because you're building those applications, and we at the same time are building ways of helping you build them and helping you deliver those securely out to your customers, your users. So this total stack here is the complete picture of the mobile work style, all the different elements of that. And I could spend a lot of time talking to you about each one of those, and you'll be very glad to know that I'm not going to do that. But I am going just to talk a little bit about the other thing that we really, really believe is critical in this mobile work style, which is the user experience. So if we believe that the world is going mobile, that the mobile work style is the way to get there, then the third thing that we really believe is true is that the experience that the user has of that is as critical an element in that as the other two. So if the experience that the user has is poor, if it's not as good as they expect it to be on those Android and iOS devices, then they won't adopt it. They won't use it. They'll go back to using what they like to use. So this experience here has to be great. It has to live up to the promise of the device and the promise of those micro apps. Otherwise, people won't use it. So our focus here is very, very much on making sure that the experience that people have of the things that they're doing in this mobile work style is really, really good. Now, that's not just fonts and not just colors, although that's part of it. What we're aiming for here is to make the technology invisible. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that that will probably resonate. So when you drive a car and you're driving along and there's a traffic light, you put your foot on the brake. You don't think about putting your foot on the brake. You don't think about what's going on in the car when you put your foot on the brake. You just put your foot on the brake. It's invisible to you. And it's in that way that we want to make the technology of using mobile work styles invisible to people who are using it. They shouldn't be thinking about how to set up VPNs. They shouldn't even know that there's a VPN. They shouldn't have to think about how to get a document from one place to another place. It should just be so intuitive, so simple, so easy that it just is invisible. So it's in that way, that transparency, seamless, we use lots of words around this, but this experience piece is as critical an element in this as anything else. The latest iteration of this technology is something we call Zen Mobile 9. We have really, in this version, focused on our productivity applications and on security. So on our security side now, we've ramped it up to a FIPS level of security. Really, that's usually what the secret agencies use, and we've embedded that in so that no one has any concerns about that. Security is a key element of this. And the productivity apps that we have now is we originally had 3. We've added another 3. We will add more. We have a secure mail client with calendar and contacts. Alan will give you a quick look at that. We have a secure browser so that you can jump behind your firewalls and into your intranet very, very easily. We have a way of the data sharing and syncing data securely so that that data can sit in the cloud or it can sit in your data center. It's up to you where you want to put it, but it's very secure. We have a secure notes, a way of capturing and storing, sharing notes with other people in your organization. We have a way of editing Microsoft documents, Word, or those notes. Anything that comes in, we can edit those easily. And then finally, we've also added a way to get back to your desktop. Now, for those of you who know XenApp and XenDesktop, this is not XenApp and XenDesktop. This is another way of getting back to your physical PC. You may have a physical PC at home, or you may have a Mac at home, you may have a PC on your desktop. You're away from the office, you're away from home, you want to just get back to get a document or get something that you forgot and push a button and jump back to your physical PC, see your documents, see your files, run an application if you want to, but this is just a way of getting back to your physical device. Once again, another way of kind of bringing that Windows world, that desktop world, that Mac, along with you when you're mobile. So this productivity app area is one area that we're continuing to do work in. It's certainly not the only area that we're focused on. We're very focused on working with third parties to bring their applications into it. We're working on development tools to help our customers mobilize their businesses by developing their own applications and delivering them out to customers. There's a lot going on in this particular area. But what I'd like to shift to now is hand it over to Alan to take you through in some more detail about how does this actually work, how does this flow into the way that you do things. So rather than spending too much time on looking in great detail around some of these technology things, just how does it apply to what you do in your day-to-day lives. So please welcome Alan. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. So, in my day-to-day life, I spend a lot of time with CIOs and, IT directors and, infrastructure heads. And I like to ask the question, what is the big business issue that concerns you most? Let me show you the top, I think I've got 5 responses here. And I ask you to think for a moment about how this actually maps to your own situation. Just out of interest, just a consensus in the room, which do you think would be the number 1 response that I get? Anybody? How many people think security and compliance is the most important one? Okay. Mobility? Okay. Very interesting. I can tell you about 70% or more of the people I speak to, data security is number 1. Okay? And they're not concerned about external threats. When they're talking security, they're responding to or referring to internal threats. How do they protect intellectual property? How do you prevent data loss? These are the concerns. Furthermore, it's exacerbated by mobility. So in other words, once we make our users mobile, will that threat increase? You've got to remember, we people have been in IT a long time. We're used to having our users within a confined set of 4 walls. We feel we can control what they're doing. We control their devices. We own their devices. We control their applications. We own their applications. And now we're moving into this mobile world. And so how does that affect that number 1 concern, security? There are some other benefits that come out of mobility as far as operational things, but I'm going to concentrate today on those two main areas, mobility and security. Now, Rob mentioned mobile workspaces. I'm going to be so bold as to say mobile workspaces are not new. Okay, the concept, the business concept of a mobile workspace is not new. If we cast our minds back before the PC, think about the way people worked back then. Okay? I can tell you, the majority of people did not sit at their desk with a dumb terminal connected to a mainframe or a mini. That's a fallacy. The majority of people didn't have access. And those that did had maybe access to one application on that mini or mainframe computer. So its usefulness was limited. So how did people work back then? Very simple. You had a desk, it was covered in documents, and you probably had a stapler and an electronic calculator there. Okay? Think about that electronic calculator for a moment. Many people would bring their own calculators in from home. In fact, I'm talking about the early 80s, here, late 70s, early 80s. Your electronic calculator defined who you were. It was like a smartphone of today, where we like to have the latest fashionable smartphone. People like to have the latest fashionable electronic calculator back then. Now, you think about that calculator. You could bring in your own calculator from home. You could exchange calculators. No security issues. It was a bring your own device. It was BYOD. Now, here I have my BYOD calculator sitting there, and I've got my documents. I want to go home and work from home, or I want to go to another office and work from there. What did I do? I took those documents, put them in a briefcase, and I carried that briefcase. Voila, mobile workspace. Now, did it meet the three criteria that Rob mentioned? Mobile, virtual, secure? No, it was mobile. Wasn't virtual. Wasn't really secure. I don't class two combination locks on a briefcase as secure. Bottom line is, you lost your briefcase, you lost those documents. Briefcase was stolen, those documents were compromised. Let's move forward a little bit. PC came out. The PC enabled a range of new applications. It allowed people to have computer access. And so now, we took a lot of those documents that were sitting on the desk, we put them in electronic form or soft form on the PC, and we worked on those applications. Our favourite electronic calculator went in the top drawer because now we had spreadsheets. But when I needed to work away from the office, I had to print out those documents, put them in my briefcase, travel to the other location. Nothing had really improved in that sense. Then the laptop came out. Now, instead of having to print out those documents, I could carry a laptop and those documents in electronic form. Mobile. Secure? Not really. Because you think about it, you lose your laptop, you lose your documents. Secure? That's arguable too, because all your documents and applications were sitting on that device. So it doesn't quite meet the criteria. But as you can see, the business requirement for mobility has always been there. So where are we with mobile workspaces today? Well, now what we do is we don't tether ourselves to the device. We don't load the documents on the laptop. We don't load the applications on the laptop. They stay in the data centre. The laptop is just a viewing tool. It allows us to view those applications and those documents, allows us to modify them, but the physical data does not leave your data centre. So now we need to leave the office and we're going home or going somewhere else. We don't need to carry anything. Now we're virtual. And if I'm not carrying anything, what do I have to lose? It's secure. So consequently, we've now reached this this level of evolution in this space, whereby it is mobile, virtual, and secure. So, having achieved that, let's talk about some of the problems that IT sees with this. What do we have to overcome to implement this powerful technology? Well, the problem is, this is what users want. This is what users need. I'm sure your users are coming to you asking to be able to work from any device, anywhere, anytime. Why? Because they need to fulfil that age-old business requirement of mobility, mobile workspaces. So this is what they want. Any device, any application, anytime. However, IT has responsibilities. IT is charged with making sure the infrastructure is reliable, secure, maintained. In the past, these have been two separate worlds. How do we bring these worlds together? How can we make users happy and IT happy? Now, IT has always had the ability to lock down the infrastructure very, 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 very tightly. You can lock it down so tightly no data will escape, but your users won't be able to work. Okay? So what it's about is you've got to find that area that fits your organisation and your policies, whereby you can set security boundaries and enable your users enough freedom to be highly productive. And that's the key to this. We have got a very simple view of this, and Rob showed a slightly different version of this slide a bit earlier. Okay? We break it down into devices, data, and applications. We want to build a virtual workspace. So, at the device layer, we can take a traditional device, a laptop or a PC or a Mac, something with a keyboard and a mouse. And we can run virtual, we can deliver a virtual desktop to that device, we can deliver virtual applications to that device. We can make it secure and we can make it portable. Okay? And we've been able to do this for some time. But where the problem comes in is that's okay if I have a device with a large screen. Let's say I want to take a Microsoft application, Microsoft Outlook, for instance, and I want to run it in a virtual environment, take it with me. If I have a tablet or a laptop, it's a big screen, the application has been written for it. What happens when I want to use a smartphone, though? I can deliver a Windows desktop or application to this device, but seriously, would I prefer, would I really enjoy running Microsoft Outlook on this? Not really, okay? The screen is just too small. So for these types of devices, we obviously would prefer to run native applications. So let's talk about that for a moment, smartphones, native applications. When we think about the first smartphone designed for enterprises, i.e. designed for business, what was it? The BlackBerry. Okay? BlackBerry, clever device. It was designed with enterprises in mind. It had secure applications, secure networking, all built in. But BlackBerry missed one area that was important. It has one major flaw. Anybody want to guess what that is? You're very technical on your answer, okay? User experience? Close. Tell you what it is. It's not fashionable. Nobody wants to use it. That's the problem with the BlackBerry, okay? That's the problem. Fashion took over. These became a fashion item. Your users don't want to use their BlackBerries. They want to have the latest iPhone, the latest Android device. It has become the new electronic calculator of our age. Okay? It's how you say who you are to the world by the device you carry. It's just the way it is. That's fashion. Now, how much security is on one of these? They're getting better, but it's still very, very low. So there's our gap. How do we create a secure device to replace those BlackBerries in the environment? Well, the easiest way, the device layer, is, and I call this a very coarse level, is to run MDM, Mobile Device Management. MDM, the company can control which applications go on this device. The company can remotely erase data and applications from this device. The company can geographically track this device. And it's a great solution on its own if the company owns the device. And there's the key. On its own, MDM doesn't suit BYOD. Okay? It needs things built around it. Can you imagine if this was your phone and you're a user? Okay? And the company says, that's a very nice phone you have there, you want to use it for the company, that's fine. But we're going to tell you what applications you can put on your phone. We can remotely see and erase your data. We can track you. Good deal? Of course it isn't. Okay? And users won't take that. However, for a company-owned device, company has absolutely every right to control all of those things. Every right. Okay? Now, some companies may choose to give out phones to all users. And that's one use case. But in real life, most organisations have multiple use cases. And so we need to consider the use case surrounding BYOD, where people want to use their own devices, but they don't want to be tracked. And that's where we start moving into the application control. And so when we can start controlling applications on top of the basic MDM layers, now it's a different story. Now the story to users is, that's your phone, you want to use it for the company. You can put any application you want on your device. We cannot see, nor can we erase your data. And we will not track you. Is that a better deal? Okay? And the upside is, by using your own device, you won't have to carry two phones, a personal phone and a company phone, which the feedback I get, users do not like doing. Okay? So now we have a very different situation. We have the flexibility to bring your own devices and or company devices. We can control the apps, because once we do that, we now can put control around the applications to control what people do within an application. So, in that same story about a BYOD device, we won't track you, we won't do anything like that. However, if you want to access company data, you will load company applications onto your device when you access company data. And we will control those applications only. So in other words, when you're in your application, we might turn off the camera. We might control the microphone. We might stop you copying and pasting. We might stop you creating new emails. The moment you go out of that company application, your phone is back to what it was. So by combining MDM with that application control, we now have a much more powerful solution with a much more broader set of use cases. The last piece is data. Okay? How do we control data flow out of the organisation? There's many ways to do it out there, but we have DLP and various other methods. And I'm not saying that they get disposed of here. Okay? It's an implementation that has many facets. But the simplest way of controlling data leaving an organisation is accountability. Okay? If somebody is accountable, they know they will be caught if they do the wrong thing. They are highly unlikely to do the wrong thing. Think about it. If I was in your company and I wanted to send sensitive information to a competitor, would I use the company email to do it? No, I'd end up in jail, okay? So consequently, email was a very basic way of controlling data flow out of an organisation, because the IT department, the company, had visibility as to the sender, the receiver, the date, the time, and what data was sent. Hence, there was a level of accountability. And it was working. What happened though? The Exchange service started to explode because there were too many attachments going through them. IT did its job. Remember, IT is responsible for reliability and maintainability. So IT came out with a policy. No attachments over 5 megabytes. Okay? Who has that policy here in their organisation? Nobody. Come on, I bet everybody. Okay? Let me ask you this question. Presume your policy is 5 megabytes. It's probably bigger, smaller, I don't know. But presume that policy came in last night. Yesterday, you sent a 10 megabyte file to the client for legitimate reasons. But today you can't. What business change has there been where you can now not send that email? Has the business changed in any way? The business reason has not changed. It was an IT policy to protect the infrastructure. So what do your users do? Your users still have to do their jobs. What do? Break up the file into smaller pieces so it meets the attachment guidelines? How productive is that? Could be something worse going on. They may be something like Dropbox. Okay? Dropbox. Great technology, but it was not designed for enterprises. So consequently, your users may actually be loading the file up to a third-party cloud, sending the link to a receiver, and the recipient downloads that link. IT in the company has no record of that transaction. There is no accountability. You've opened up your data to the world. Okay? So that's the first problem with it. The second problem is one of who owns the data. You've got to realise that is being loaded onto a cloud site outside the shores of India, outside the legal jurisdiction of India. So who controls it? And that is an area of what we call data sovereignty. So as you can see, we cover a number of areas here. We start at the device, and we control the device. We tie that into the way we control applications. So not only do we set up, micro VPNs from the device back to the data centre, and we control, the applications that go onto the device, company applications. We can control what people do within those applications. And now we get a very granular control over data flow. The other key area, and Rob mentioned this too, is the user experience. Imagine that you open a BYOD policy in your organisation. So now, instead of having, all Dell laptops issued with BlackBerry devices, and they're the devices in your organisation and you've got full control over it, now you choose to run a BYOD. So now your users could be using any laptop. They could be using a Mac, they could be using a Linux device, they could be using thin clients. As far as their smartphones, Android, Windows Phone, iOS, Apple, okay? There's a huge range of devices there. We can control the security on those devices, but what's very important is the usability. And I can almost guarantee that you don't want to have to retrain your users on every single device out there. So the key is to actually make the devices behave the same. And that's what we do, okay? So we provide this continuum of a mobile experience. If you think about it, the average user uses 3 to 4 devices in a day. They may start on a laptop, move to a thin client, move to a tablet, then to a smartphone. It should make no difference to the user. They should be able to transfer their workspace from one to the other seamlessly. Let me show you how we can do this. So I'm going to be a consultant for an organisation. What happened to my laptop? Okay. So I'm a consultant in an organisation, and I'm working at a client site. Okay? But I need to actually have secure access back to my office. I may actually be using on one of my clients' machines. Okay? They're giving me access back to my company, HTTP link through. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to link back to my data centre, and I'm going to access my email and check some applications and things like that. So all I need is a browser and an internet connection. So there's my browser. What it's done is it's gone to my data centre, and there's my authentication screen. I'm only using single-factor authentication here today, but it's purely ease when I'm on stage. Real life, we fully support two-factor authentication and recommend it. So let me log in. And I'm being authenticated into the domain. Now what's happened is it's gone to the broker's gone to Active Directory, and its IT has set a policy that said this user has access to Windows 7 and Windows 8 desktops. You could drop a user directly into a desktop. It depends on how you want to set it up. I could also just go in and choose applications. Let's go to Windows 7. Let's open a Windows 7 desktop. So here I'm using desktop virtualization. It's secure. There is no data crossing the link. The only thing that's happening is we're sending pixels across that link, keyboard and mouse strokes. This here is what we call our storefront. Okay? This is where users choose their applications. Why would users want to choose their applications? Well, think about it. Okay? Most organisations run a standard operating environment today, an SOE. What that means in simple terms is you give everybody the same laptop, and on each of those laptops, you give them, 10 applications that are the same on every one of those laptops. Okay, so it's standard for everybody. They then load their other applications or whatever from there. Why do you do that? Well, it's quite simple. It means when somebody brings their broken laptop back to IT with a problem, it's easy to just re-image it, give them a standard laptop back again. Okay? If we move to a virtual environment, we don't need to do that because you have standard images already running in the data centre. So that requirement's gone. The other question about an SOE environment is if I've got 1,000 users with 10 applications running on each laptop, how many of those users are actually using all of those applications? And the common answer is no idea. There's no visibility. So by allowing users to choose their applications, you know what applications are being used by and by whom. So as a user, based on who I am, I can now choose what applications I want. So in this case, I say I want productivity applications, I want Word, PowerPoint, OneNote, Excel. And those applications are now directly usable to me. Let me open an application. So I'll open up Outlook. Okay, and let's just create a new email here. Okay, it's a dummy email, so let's just say, hi all, love Goa, we'll check sales figures. Okay, so I want to check some sales figures, gigas. So what I'm doing now is I can just go back into here and I can say category sales. So I can open an application. Okay, so there I've got a couple of applications on the screen. I've got some email. I'm at the office, but I've just realised I have an appointment I'm running late for. I don't have time to save anything. I can just say disconnect. That session keeps running. All I need to do is log off from this network and bang. Okay? That laptop, could be used by somebody else. I may borrow that laptop. I go to a coffee shop. I'm going to meet somebody at a coffee shop. I haven't taken a laptop with me. I'm taking an iPad. So, we turn on our iPad. Apple TV. And let's try and get this thing on the screen. Okay, there's my iPad. Simplest way, Citrix receiver. There's the storefront, the last time I used it. Let me update that, and it asked me to authenticate. Okay, now up to date. I can now open my application. Come on, projector. Catch up. There we are. Okay. My iPad must have lots of things open. So there you go. My workspace has just followed me. Okay? So my application's still open. It's followed me. It's a virtual workspace. When I disconnected from the session back there, I didn't turn off my workspace. I didn't close it. All I did was disconnected one viewing port and opened another viewing port. And so now I can work, at the coffee shop. I can choose more applications if I want to. I can do whatever I like. Okay? I finished my work for the day. I'm from Melbourne in Australia. So I actually stop at the MCG to watch cricket. Australia's playing, I don't know, help me. Who's Australia playing? Gee, I didn't see that one coming. Okay, so Australia's playing India. Who's winning? Didn't see that one coming either. Okay, so I'm at the cricket. India's beating Australia. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret about Australians when it comes to sport. If we're not winning, we're not interested. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some work while I'm at the cricket and hope the game improves. So let me put the iPhone on the screen. And there's my iPhone. What I want to do is I want to check my email. Would I use my iPhone email client to access my company email? And would it be secure if I did? No? Okay. What if I ran a VPN app on my phone first and then did it? Would that be secure? Would it? Still no. Okay. Even if I ran a VPN, that would secure it at the network layers. But it would not control what I could do with the data inside that email. I could transfer it to my Gmail account if I wanted to. Copy and paste. Very easy. So the company knows this. So the company has said, no, if you want to use company email, that is your private email. That's for your private stuff. To access company business, use the company email. In this case, WorksMail. Okay, so WorksMail on the screen there. So we open WorksMail. This is setting up a micro VPN back to the data centre. Micro VPN only goes from the application to the data centre, not the device to the data centre. That means only this application's accessing the data, and now I can put controls around the application. So, here's my email. I've got calendar, I've got contacts, I've got everything else. There's no email there because my sync period is actually outside my last email that I actually sent within this system. But what I want to show you is I'm going to create something, okay? I'm going to put a word in here. I don't know. Hello, any word. And I'm going to copy it into my clipboard. Select, copy. So it's in the clipboard. Just to show you that it's in the clipboard, I'm going to hit paste. And it's there, correct? This email is in what we call a secure container. Watch when I go out of the email and try copying that information into a non-secure application. So I go notes. Where is it? Notes. Create a new note. There's nothing in the clipboard. Okay? So my secured application has a different clipboard to the unsecured application. I can't copy and paste because IT set a policy that said I could not. But I do want to save that data somewhere. So what I can do is I can save that in the company notes application. Works Notes. So we open Works Notes. Come on, up you come. Okay, let's create a new note. Hit paste. Hello. Okay, it's in the secure container. I can copy and paste within applications within that secure container. The last thing I want to do, I'm at the Cricket, and I want to access an internal server, okay, which has a browser connection. So I need to use a browser. Do I use my Safari browser? No, it's not secure. So once again, I need to use a company-based browser. I don't have one. There's not one there. So from the Cricket, I can go into Works Home. I can go to the company store, very similar to what you saw on the virtual desktop. Sort it. I can go down to Works Web, add, install it on the phone. Okay, so now I'm installing a secure browser on the phone. Come on, down you come. And now I can use it. So this has now got a micro VPN pointing into my data centre. Let's give it a moment to come up. Okay, we've lost our projector, but just so you know, I could actually take that secure piece of information. This is inside the container. We can actually paste to it. Okay? So I think we've had a bit of a reset of some systems here, so I think I might just finish up. So consequently, as you can see, the concept of a mobile workspace is a long-term business requirement. It's been around as long as I can remember, okay? What has changed is the technology enablers to enable us to do that. And so consequently, we can now use these latest technologies to provide a mobile workspace that is mobile, virtual, and secure. The other key part of it is that the user is now able to move from device to device to device seamlessly. Moving from the laptop to the iPad, it was seamless. If I'd moved to a thin client, seamless. If I'd moved to a Mac, it would have been seamless. The only time it was any slightly different was when I moved to a small screen and I chose to use a native application. But even then, my choice of applications, etc., it was still the same. I could still use Windows applications if I wanted to. So it's all integrated. And that's the key to the Citrix Mobile Workspaces solutions. Okay? And with that, I will hand back to our MC. Thank you very much.